everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
So we have a really special episode today. One of my best friends is going to talk about her journey.
Special episode of Lorcaine After Dark.
Yes, a special episode of Lorcaine After Dark.
Yeah. Gotta throw the name in there all the time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about your journey.
Yes.
Which started...
From addiction to sobriety.
Yes.
And it's been 12 and a half years.
Wow.
That's
I know,
amazing.
Right?
That's impressive.
Isn't that amazing?
Good for you,
Yeah.
Laura.
I mean,
congratulations. My gosh.
It's so weird. When I had 3 months of sobriety, I thought that was forever. I was like at the court trying to get... I'll get to all
You'll
of
get
this.
into that.
But I remember thinking, God, 3 months is so huge. And to think that if I would have thought like 12
and a
years,
half years
I wouldn't have even thought I would have made it that long. But that's why they say one day at a time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Step. Well, why don't you tell us what, Eric, why don't you tell us what addiction is?
So addiction is a noun, and it is the fact or condition of being addicted to a particular substance, thing, or activity. So it's a multitude of...
I mean, anything.
Things,
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
I was addicted to a lot of things, mostly alcohol. But, I think that it's important that I tell my story because I'm thinking if I was a mom with 2 little kids doing drugs and drinking, I wasn't the only mom with 2 little kids doing drugs and drinking. I mean,
Right.
I wasn't. So that's why I chose to, when I came back from rehab, chose to tell everybody on the air where I went, because I'm like, either people are going to hate me because I've been lying to them, technically. I mean, I'm seriously been lying to them, like pretending I'm this happy, perfect mom with like this perfect life, and my husband's a pilot, and da-da-da-da. And when on the other hand, I'm living this completely different life. I thought people would either hate me or be supportive. And what I found was that our listeners were just the most amazing support I could ever receive. So, I mean, I'm so grateful for that. So,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that they rose to the occasion. That's so cool.
Oh my gosh, did they ever?
That's cool.
Well, and it says a lot about people when somebody goes through a struggle. And you always, I think, come out of it thinking the worst. Like, everybody's going to abandon me. Nobody's going to, especially when you're in a public position like you were in the public eye, where you think a lot of people will probably turn on me. And Linda and I were both there for all of that. And it for me, and I've said this to you many times before, and we'll talk about it during the podcast, but the fact that when you came out, your entire world changed. I mean, nothing was the same.
From being a married mom and working a full-time job to now being a single mom and finding a place in the whole journey.
Right.
And I remember thinking, we would call each other and go, today is the day she's going to break. Like, I would think, today is it. Today, we used to call her our girl. Do you remember? We used to go, our girl's not going to make it. Like, we used to think this because we would just see the card just stacked and stacked against you. And then you'd pull out of it. And I remember thinking, my God, she's so brave.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you and I don't know how many people know the story or remember the story or whatever, but I remember thinking, there is not one thing in your life that is the same. And when it's like you came out of rehab into a completely
just morphed into a new person,
into a different life. There was nothing that was the same, and you always said the one thing: if it wasn't for those kids,
you always said that.
Absolutely.
And
I was not going to let those little faces down.
Right.
No friggin' way.
Right.
You would say that in like your most vulnerable moments. You would go, nope, Charlie and Evan deserve this. And I remember, I think, okay, then we've got this. Like, I remember thinking, she's going to make it. Because in the first few months, who knew where it was going to go? Oh, yeah. It could have gone any which direction.
Oh, totally.
Well, I have friends that are in rehab right now, and they've got out, and they've relapsed and had to go back in and everything, and that's very common.
They say that relapse sometimes is part of your story, and it is part of your story. For some people, some people relapse again and again and again, and then finally get it. Some people, here it is: you either die, you end up in an institution, or jail. Those are your 3 options.
Right.
If you don't get help
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know?
And I think when you get out, the urge of something, the unknown or the no is probably calling you
The
more.
familiarity.
Right.
Yeah, just having
what?
that easing and the pain, or just what's one drink or what's a sip.
Uh-huh.
But you learn fast. Like you knew that one sip or that smell or that bottle was taking you down a whole nother path. Like,
It would immediately.
You were iron firm. Like you were stood solid.
You know what's so cool is that I've heard a lot of people tell their stories in certain meetings that I go to, and a lot of them include the relapse. And the relapse stories are horrifying. Mm-hmm. They go down hard, fast, lose jobs, lose families, lose kids within weeks.
Yeah.
And so
weeks of getting out.
Just weeks of being back out.
Got
people that relapse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they go from like gaining things back, losing their car, losing this, losing their license, you know. So I just really, so relapse has not been part of my journey, but
I'm so happy for you for that.
Okay, so I'll start at the beginning. Okay, so in my family, growing up, I mean, I had the best childhood ever. I was grew up in a bubble, but alcohol was celebrated. Alcohol was like always there, always fun, always there for parties, Easter, Christmas. When the family came over, my parents would always have cocktails. They'd have cocktails with their friends and ciggies out in the patio, and we'd run around and play, and I'd take sips of my dad's drink, and you know, I'd be like, "Ew, this is so gross. You know, why do you like this?" And like, beer tastes so gross. Why do you like this? And we'd run around, and so alcohol was always like a celebrated thing in my life. So it was not. It was not a foreign body, and it wasn't something that I was like, oh, I'm going to try this, and because my parents are so strict. No, my first drunk, I remember being at a party at my friend Belle's house, and her parents were out of town. We invited some boys over, and they brought over bottled Long Island iced teas.
Oh, boy.
And so I just remember drinking and drinking and drinking until I completely blacked out. I ended up on the grass outside in my own puke, and there was a guy standing above me, and he was like, are you okay, and I was like, don't rock the boat, that's all I remember saying, don't rock the boat. And then I had to go to work the next day, and I remember I had to throw up at work. But I just was like, all right, whatever, you know, that was like a fun party.
That was part of it.
Part of it, you know. And so all through my high school parties, alcohol, always at parties, and always what I wanted to do on the weekends was drink. And I tried marijuana in high school, but I didn't really like it that much because it wasn't like an uplifting thing. It was more like a downer, and I liked being up. It wasn't until college that I tried my first drug, and that was cocaine. And I remember I had a cold, and somebody said, hey, try this. It'll clear you right up. And I was like, okay, what is this? I'm like, oh, cocaine. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, you know.
Yeah. So
I did it. I'm like, I like this feeling. This feels really good.
And there wasn't an apprehension of that?
No.
Not at all.
I wasn't afraid of, I didn't even think about becoming an addict. I didn't even know that was like a thing.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I knew what an alcoholic was, sort of, but I didn't think that was even on my register. But, and then I tried with some people that I knew. I tried crystal meth, and we were playing Monopoly all night long, and I remember it just being so fun because I could stay up all night, and it really like hyper focuses you, and I felt like Superwoman, and I was like, I mean, the next day I felt like crap because the come down from that is horrible.
Yeah.
So I tried that. I tried shrooms twice in college. This is all as I'm a freshman. This is all in college. So I dabbled here and there, but I didn't really. But the cocaine kind of hooked me a little bit because I remember going to parties and seeking it out. Obviously, there was alcohol. That's always an underlying current in my story. Yeah, always. That was always there. But I remember somebody. I'll get to this in a minute. This is just an ugly remembrance. But I was always seeking out other drugs, other things to make me feel awake and up and fun. I was in a sorority at the time, and a lot of the girls did drugs there.
That's a thing. Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah.
So in my senior year of college, I met this woman who was 10 years older than me, and I met her at this it was kind of like a seminar thing. I had just broken up with my boyfriend. I was so sad. Who was Dave. And I was so sad. And so I went to this seminar and met this woman. She's like, you know what? I make jewelry. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so artistic. It'd be so fun. And she called me a couple of days later and she goes, have you ever done crystal meth? And I'm like, oh yeah. She goes, would you mind? Would you, if we did some and then made some jewelry? I'm like, sure. So I drove her to her house, and that's what I did for like the next couple of years. I would drive up on the weekends, do the drug, make the jewelry, the most hideous jewelry you've ever freaking seen in your life. We thought for sure we were going to make so much money selling this Christmas jewelry that was so heinous. Looking back, I just go, oh my God, I can't even believe it. But we were churning things out, and oh my gosh, there was one time when I went up there because I was just desperate for that feeling. And I went up there to hang with her, and I was waiting for her to offer me some. And she said to me, she goes, can you just leave? And I remember feeling humiliated, absolutely devastated and humiliated. That was my first feeling of humiliation in this addiction.
She was your friend.
She was my friend in it. Yeah. She had it. She knew I wanted it.
Yeah.
And she was annoyed by me and said, please leave. And that, I will never forget that.
Like soul crushing. So
then, the next couple of years, I didn't really dabble in that because we kind of became distant. And then I got married at 22. And
but were you able to take yourself off crystal meth?
Yes, I was.
Oh, okay.
Because I wasn't hanging out with the people that did it, really. Because, like I said, I got married. The first 5 years of our marriage was great.
Yeah.
We went through something 5 years in that really changed the nature of the relationship. I'm not saying it out of respect because
you have a family.
I have a family.
Yeah.
So it was at that point, we live in Coronado. Every night I would go out to the Brigantine or to Portofino or whatever and drink. Just drink. And I was working the morning show then. Wow. I would drink all night long.
Yeah.
And they just would give me free wine. Like, because I knew the bartenders, I knew all the wait staff and everything, because I was every night by myself. Drink. So then I turned 30, and 6 months later, my dad died suddenly. He hemorrhaged one night. He had a duodenal ulcer that was not diagnosed, and my mom found him trying to get back into bed. And he was stiff. Wow. And I remember getting back from working out. I was working out. Wasn't doing drugs at the time. I was drinking still, but whatever. And having 10 missed voice messages on my answering machine at the time. And it was my sister. She's like, call. You have to call. Please call. And so I called her, and she's like, Dad's dead. I was like, what? I'll never forget her. That's all she said. Dad's dead. No. So that changed a lot of things. My drinking got really bad after that. But 3 months later, I find out I'm pregnant on the air with Charlie. And my very first thought was, now I can't drink wine. I didn't think about, I'm going to have a baby.
No.
I'm going to be a mother.
Right.
We're going to be a family. No, it was that I couldn't drink wine. That's the first thing I said on the air, too. People slammed me for that. And I was like, why are they slamming me for that? But now I look back and go, oh my